I was just sitting around here messing around, listening to some Jimi songs and really thinking about what I wanted to do for this. And something just came to me, so I'm just going to play it. And it reminds me of, it's definitely a lick that Jimi used to play, but it's also being used in a different kind of context where it can relate a little bit to something like similar to this Dr. Dre song that was on the Aftermath stuff. But I find it interesting to think about like Jimi back in the 60s and then the hip hop stuff from the 90s or the late 80s. I think if Jimi was still around, he would have jumped all over that stuff. So, but you know, that I've studied hip hop for a very long time, and I've also studied the culture, you know, the African American culture for a very long time in the music. So, you know, it's hard to tell what Jimi would have done. He probably would have done something that we wouldn't have been able to think of. So, we just all try and keep pushing along. Some people will cover his music, and then some people will try and do new stuff with the vibes, and that's kind of where I tend to be when it comes to this preserving of the possibilities of what Jimi Hendrix opened up. I was just thinking something like that, kind of, it's something you can kind of trance out on, and, you know, I think the blues is something that's very deep. You know, I come from a different generation of it all, but to understand it, or to love it, or appreciate it, are different things. You know, I think when it comes to the blues, maybe we'll have Perry come up here and talk a little bit about that later, hopefully. But he's shaking his head no at me right now. But, you know, Jimi Hendrix did a lot of things with music, and, you know, like, when I think about, like, musicality stuff, like him playing some of that, you know, major six stuff, over rock songs in a psychedelic way. You know, I don't think anybody else was doing that at that time. I also find it interesting that when Jimi met up with Juma, who, you know, is in town, you know, that was when Jimi started to get more into the Black Panther stuff and start really kind of representing for the people. And I find that to be a very important shift that happened in, you know, pop culture history. You know, if that didn't happen, who knows? Could have hip hop happened in the 80s? I don't know, because I mean, in hip hop, a lot of the people are considered the children of the Black Panther movement. So there's that link there. And I've had talks with Juma about that kind of stuff, and you know, it's hard to really tell sometimes with how things turn out. But you know, I remember me and my friends growing up. You know, we were all innocent high school kids, sitting around, you know, blazing up, you know, bumping some Hendrix, and you know, experimenting with other kinds of fun stuff. You know, the thing is with Jimi, it's like all the people that he's influenced have kind of kept his thing going. Like we saw Jeff Beck at the Tower Theater, and it was me, Jimmy Faber, another guitar player from the Havertown area who's real talented. And you know, just seeing Jeff Beck live was the closest thing that we would probably see to somebody like Jimi Hendrix live. So the way that his influence continues to influence future generations, I guess that's what I'm trying to say, is future generations have benefited from Jimi Hendrix's work, his music, his consciousness, and you know, all the good stuff that he left behind. You know, being in this town, it's really tripped out to, you know, walk the same streets that Jimi Hendrix once walked, or sat on and played guitar or whatever. You know, I think that's also another thing too, is the mountain up here. Like, I don't know like what years different things in Jimi Hendrix's career played out. Like, I know he was out in California for a little bit, I know he was in Woodstock for a little bit, and you know, just being around mountains does wonders for people. And I know for me, when I come up here and sit by Overlook Mountain, you know, it inspires me. So I mean, to hear what Jimi Hendrix has done on so many albums, and to hear this gigantic leap into consciousness that he made, or you know, even just the lightheartedness of it all. Of like, sometimes I'll be sitting around and I'll be thinking like all this heavy stuff, and then I'll think about Jimi Hendrix, and it makes me feel more lighthearted about everything that's going on. Because if you look at things lightheartedly, then you could really tap into the real benefits of life. You know, it's like comedy music. You know, the art of comedy.
Yeah, and I had actually a little gallery in Mount Schroemper before, and I had a young, middle-aged gentleman coming in to the, you know, gallery and said, "Oh my God, Jimi Hendrix all over." So he said, "He saved my life." And I said, "Why? How was that?" He said, "Through the manic depression."
Through the what?
The manic depression, the song.
Oh, wow.
So he does save lives. It's right the opposite. He was not a total drug addict like they make him out to be. He did not overdose. He wasn't that freaking stupid to do all of that, you know. Yeah. He's smart, he's out there, he's in connection with the cosmos, he's out there, you know. Yeah. He is, but it was too much 50 years ago. So, and he was going to do all these, you know, mixed media things, and it would have been so awesome. And I would have, you know, I wrote a song to inspire the others to go back to, because he has a lot of things to say, and the connection to also to the higher vibration.
I think it's really important what you're saying, because music does save lives, and Jimi was one of the best at that, as in really putting down something that really means something. And there was a lot of guys back then, like Sam Cooke. Like, Jimi comes from that lineage, and it's interesting to hear how soulful some of that music was back then. And you know, it's like certain kinds of musicians are so perfect for that transition into the afterlife of becoming a god or whatever you want to call it. Some people are naturally programmed that way, as in their DNA. I know in a lot of different African American culture or African culture in general, being a god is something that's a natural thing for a lot of people of African descent. So that transition into actually becoming an outer god then from the inner self, very interesting with guys like Jimi Hendrix and Tupac Shakur and, you know, Bob Marley, these other guys that have just inspired people for generations to come, you know?
Yeah, and if I may add to it, it's all about the free flow. It's all about the freedom, the being fear-free and not to care about things, to be in a moment right there and then. And you don't actually need to have any drugs to do that. And Jimmy would not have done, you know, be the king of all, you know, he would not have done it without being a drug addict. I've been around wasted people, they never get it together. They don't, you know, but he produced. I mean, look at him. But a lot of, he used he walked the fine line. You know, he walked the fine line. He knew what he was doing and how to use it.
Yeah.
And to be in tuned, you know, to use it, to be in tuned, to go to the, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I did my senior project in school about the positive effects of, you know, hallucinogenics in music, and you know, something that I just want to say about that real quick is, you know, there is an ancient shaman line with stuff like that people walk, and if you can do that in these times or in other times, and you're able to pull it off and do something really beautiful, then that's a beautiful thing. That's I feel like what he did with it, you know.
Right, and that's what Destination Rising Sun is also all about, to bring back your own power, your own authentic energy, so you know exactly right there and then. You got it, you know, and you don't abuse it, or you don't, you know.
I think being an ancient in the modern world is a good thing.
Right, and to use it like a shaman way, you know, and to become actually your own little shaman, to become your own little god. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, to let it all flow so freely, and that's when all the magic comes out. You don't have to, you know, put any kind of spells out, because if you do, you are unbalanced.
Yeah.
It will come naturally to you.
Yes.
It's all in the nature.
You were saying something earlier that sparked my interest too, because you know how, like, before we started doing the program today, that we were talking about like what we would do or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, like, I noticed you had a lot of cool ideas. So it's like, we're living in a time period where people need to know that, like, it's okay to jump in and grab the wheel and say, no, this is what we have to do, and this is what we have to do, or this is what I want to do, or because if we don't, then nobody else will. Like, we're all we got. So it's important to do these kinds of things, you know, where we believe in what we're doing. Like, that's why I DJ hip hop, is because if I don't do it, it won't get done.
Right, right. And there's a saying in our rune works, let me just throw that in real quick, it's not, you are, you know, the enlightened spiritual people, they say, okay, I'm going to be my individual, I find my individualism, you know, but that's not enough. In our rune works, it's not enough. What you have to do on your walk, you enlighten the ones on your way. So it's not all about you. Right. But you have to find yourself first in order to do that. Yeah. So you can't do that.
Right. It's like being...
and you can't pray, and you don't, you know, it's a bunch of BS if you do all your freaking prayers and you don't act like it. You know?
Yeah.
Are your prayers going to work?
Yeah. I can't tell you how many people I've met like that, you know?
Yeah. What would God say about this, right? Okay. All right, do you want to play another song?
Yeah, I think I might as well. I'll do another little improvisational thing. See, with Jimmy, I like when he would put out that kind of magical, kind of whimsical, almost feminine kind of songs. You know, that would take you to like a fairy dreamland kind of place. So I'll try and do something in that vibe. And like I said, like I don't like copying Jimi. I don't like trying to play Jimi songs because everybody does that. But I think that it's very important to keep this thing going that he tapped into.
Exactly. Thank you, Rick. Awesome. Thank you. That was Rick Reinhart.